All right. Good morning, my dogs. It is 9 o'clock. We're doing a 6:30 club at 9 o'clock. Take a look at the disclosure before we get into it. Hopefully everyone's getting ready for the day. All right, here we go. All right, good morning, good morning. Hope everyone's feeling well. It's Friday. We have, the first quarter of the week almost down. It's definitely a very interesting week. Looked like we had normal digestion, and then all of a sudden yesterday happened. A day to take notice, a day to adjust, depending on your time frame, depending on how active you are, depending if you trade for a living, depending if you just play a trader on TV or talk a lot of smack, or if you're in the trenches like we all are, trying to make money week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter. Anyway, let me see if some of my dogs are here. Let's see if we can say hello to some of my friends around the world. Anyone tuning in? We got the Iron Man Steel Hunter in the house. We got Ed in the house. We got Bob in the house. Option Rap in the house. How's everybody doing? You guys want to see something funny? So you see how I'm in my house? Look how cool SteamYard is. I can go from in my house. I'm going to go to the Banya right now. Yeah. This is where I'd rather be. I'd like to be, in the Russian bathhouse, sweating it out, thinking about the week, thinking about life, doing some raps, going in the ice barrel. What up, Io? What up, Steve? What up, JJ? Hopefully everyone's feeling well. So, just to talk shalom to you too. Hopefully nothing complicated happens to you guys in Israel this weekend. That's probably one of the reasons why, maybe we sold off yesterday. If you look here at the chart, I put up the S&P cash earlier pre-jobs report. Let's get to that real quickly. I go through like a lot of the thoughts behind what happened yesterday, right? Just to kind of like put it in perspective of, the rhetoric, right? There's always rhetoric out there, right? Don't we hate rhetoric? Well, there is rhetoric and there's narratives, and let's move this over so everyone can see it. So here it is. Okay. So yesterday, a lot of people like, Red Dog, what was the reason why, we sold off? Was it because, Kashkari came out and said they're not going to be able to lower rates with inflation being so sticky? Was it because there was news out there that, that NATO might be able to, Ukraine might be able to join NATO? And what does that mean? Does that mean Russia is going to start a nuclear war? That would be freaking horrendous. Was it because, Israel killed 3 Iranian generals, and there's some talk that Iran might bomb Israel this weekend? Or was it because we've been up 29% since the October lows, and up 10% last quarter, and things are getting a little bit more complicated and hard to make money? So anyway, so what we have here as traders are sell rules, right? This morning, I went over these sell rules in my sauna. If you guys remember, in the sauna, I'm like, guys, there are 2 rules as an active trader who trades for a living. 1, protect your account. 2, net money so you can get a paycheck monthly and quarterly so you can make a living, so you don't have to go, find a real job. No, this is a real job. If you treat it like a real job. Anyway, so if you go back to here, the sell rules, which I'll explain again, actually, sitting here not in an ice barrel is, whenever I have a lot of overnights, what I do is, no matter even if I think it's still going higher, I trim into strength. So if I came in yesterday with 3,000 shares of Amazon and it's up $1.50, I could sell 1,500 pre-market, feel good, like, that was a good trade, and then hold a trailer for it to go and see where the market goes. I could always buy it back, but then if all of a sudden Amazon, which I was in a lot of yesterday, goes from up $2, doesn't hold the prior high, it's not that strong, market's coming in, let me reduce more to protect my capital, then it goes red. Hey, maybe things are changing, then we could revisit. But, you use your sell rules, with everything, and you can net money, stay safe, and figure out what's next. So anyway, let's talk about where we are now. So here's this, here are the spies. So we've had a bunch of these type of days, or this is the S&P cash, I'm sorry, in the past. We've had these wide range bars that give you a leg sweep, that you reduce positions, you get out, and, and you just want to get safe, because sometimes a day like this, especially after the size of a trend that we've had, could lead to more downside. And if you trade for a living and you trade month to month and quarter to quarter, you don't want to get caught in excessive swing trades when they're not paying you to sit in the swing trades. So anyway, so you map out levels on what kind of bounce could we have and what does the bounce mean to the action in the weeks and days ahead. That's why we use retracement rules, which I'm not going to get into. It's 9:05 and a lot of time. So my thought today was if the sellers have any power, they probably would reject price somewhere between 52.06 and 52.28. If you look at the SPYs real quick, if you simplify it, for the SPYs, if you remember, okay, this was your prior channel, right? Here was the high end of the channel. Here was the low end of the channel. This was where we were holding, and then all of a sudden, we failed to hold 521, right? I talk about the same thing a lot of different times. Like, Red Dog, you're a broken record. I'm not a broken record. I just, it's consistent, it's discipline, it's a process. Okay, get above and stay above. If you get above and stay above a level, there's commitment to it. What happened yesterday? SPYs went to 523, went above 521. Did it get above and stay above it? No. That means you adjust. That means you get out of the way. That means maybe you get short versus that high. That's a rule. Then all of a sudden, it doesn't hold the 8-day. Another rule, right? If you're above the 8-day, there's momentum, there's strength. You try and have excessive risk on it. If it doesn't, you be careful. Then it starts taking out prior lows, and then all of a sudden, boom. So if you do not adjust and you start buying because buying a dip's worked, for the past 3 months, which it has, you could have got your clock cleaned. So anyway, the question is what's next? So, again, if you want to just do not a precise, because Red Dog is a cocktail napkin technician, I would think after a move like this, if they did try and bounce it, this would be where sellers need to reject price, right around here. So if you covered your shorts into the close and you want to reshort, that's your spot. If all of a sudden it started to penetrate through this spot, like we've seen a bunch of different times, then this means a whole lot of nothing, and then we just continue to go sideways. So that was a big spot. If you go to the weekly chart, you're like, you look at the size of this move that we've had in the market, it's like, wow, do you really want to, as an active trader, start buying too fast? Listen, these type of days haven't, led to much. Like here, this looked like it was going to be done, and then all of a sudden this engulfed it. So for now, we're below 518.40, we're above 511, and you've had quite a move here. So at this point, we'll see what today brings. Right now, the SPYs are only up $1.18. The jobs report was super hot. Listen, we've been saying this whole year, it's like the Fed is not going to be able to cut rates with inflation sticky and the stock market will start making, new all-time highs every few weeks. So now we'll see if we get some kind of corrective phase and we get some kind of instability, maybe in a month or two. If we do get a corrective phase, they'll be able to do something, but not all the way up here. So anyway, here's the weekly, so we'll see what happens. All right, but for today, let's just go back to today because today is the day that we could make some changes or not. What happens here? Does it hold up, or do we? What could happen too is you could break. By the way, I just posted, what's it called? A chart with some thoughts on it. Some people don't know Red Dog language, and some people do. The Alpha team knows Red Dog language. The Alpha team trades with me all day long. By the way, we have an open house. So click in the link for the open house. Come hang out with the Alpha team all week for free next week. Why not? There's going to be a lot of volatility. We're going to be doing a lot of trading. Probably not a lot of sitting, but a lot of trading to make extra cash flow. Because after a day like yesterday, I'm not sitting in 15 positions letting the market make me money because I have no idea what's going to happen. So I trade actively. What up, Bobby? How you doing? What up, Rap? Yeah, Google I got out of yesterday. I got out of a lot of things yesterday. So we'll see. Why? Because if something doesn't look special and pay me to stay there, I'm not going to be there as an active trader. Listen, if you've been an investor in these things for decades, it's different. But anyway, do we hold 512.75? Right now, again, if you go here, the SPYs are up $1.22. So below this, like if you can't even take this back and it creates its HL setup, breaks 512.75, then you'll know, hey, downside continuation. We haven't had that in a while. We might break below this, get some price discovery, reclaim it. Then you have a low after market discovery this morning you could buy against. And that's a whole nother story for cash flow. But either which way, you have to know your levels and watch things around it. So anyway, with Red Dog language, for me, I'm like, what's been kind of a leader lately? Amazon made a new high yesterday. Meta made a new high yesterday. So those two will be interesting to see what type of bounce back we get. Nvidia has been a very important stock to the market. Yesterday was weaker with AMD. We'll see what type of bounce back that has to figure what type of trade are we in. Because right now we've lost momentum. Now the question is, are we range bound or are we correcting into new ranges. Anyway, so with that being said, that's my shorthand language. So what do I mean by okay, Amazon has room to 183 over. That's impressive. That means it took back a lot of yesterday, and hey, maybe these stocks could be okay. Nvidia has room to 875. If it gets through there, hey, it's a bit more of a snapback than the bears would want. Probably could reject price there. Same thing with the Q. So let's go to it. All right, so let's go. Let's go Amazon first. Amazon made a high of 185.10. We talked about that before. You could have sold some strength because we were above 183. Then what happened? Couldn't hold 183. So you adjusted again, closing the lows. So now the question is, does it break this little trend line here or not? Does it get back above 183? That would be impressive. That was the thought there. Let's see, where's Amazon right now? Amazon's only, actually Amazon's up $1.55, which is a normal snapback from 185 to here. So if it goes up $1.50 and rolls over, that's a feeble snapback. If it holds and pushes through 183, that's like, maybe it doesn't matter as much, the bearish action here. Let's go to Nvidia just to show the thought process. Nvidia was very weak yesterday. Nvidia, has been a key to this market. And we've been talking about how long will Nvidia need to trade in this channel. Okay, here, this day basically was like, hey, it's not ready to break out. And then you had follow through. Then it was getting choppy. Then yesterday, remember, I'm like, could we get above and stay above 903? No, it was there pre-market. So that was one way to take some off. Some people may have gotten short. And then I remember it was only up $4 when the SPYs were up $4. Usually when the SPYs are up $4, Nvidia is up $30. So that there was a clue of relative weakness. So now for today, I was thinking if maybe we bounce back to 875 and probably sellers need to reject price there, it gets above it, that would be impressive. Okay, at this point, whereas Nvidia is up 8 at 867, so I call that no man's land. Why is it no man's land? Because it kind of is. If you short Nvidia at 867, it could still push it to 876 before rolling over. So where is there a bounce of room to? Probably to that. If it can't even get to 876 and it starts going from up 8 and goes red, then they're selling off everything, and you better be careful every which way. And then you have 858, which is yesterday's low. Can it get below it? And then the other question is, can it get below it and stay below it, or does it get below it, flush, reclaim it, then you get some kind of trade? So if you sold, the 920s, like, hey, maybe I could buy into this area with 858 with the morning low as an out or as a stop, or you way to measure risk. And then this is really big. This is 840. This is the big gap that was protected. So you in this type of tape, you simplify it. You don't look for second tier stocks, third tier stocks, fourth tier stocks. You look at the ones with the major liquidity that means something. Okay, and also if you've been in gold, you've been in silver, you want to figure that out. How is that going to react in this new maybe time frame? So anyway, it's 9/12. It's April 5th. I don't have that much time. I wouldn't be looking at a GSIT option wrap. I wouldn't be looking at second, third, fourth tier names. Okay, look at the mega cap tech names to see what they're doing. Look at this important semis. Look at the SPYs, the Qs. Look at the IWMs. Okay, when times of volatility, you want to go with where the liquidity is, so you don't get stuck, and you break it down. When you're in a nice trend and things are going, hey, you could be in the leaders, you could be in some second tier names, you could look for chart patterns, but when you're in a potential corrective phase, you want to have a much better focus on things that mean something or mean sense. And that's my 2 cents there. As far as silver, we had a great move in silver, put a little topping tail in there. I told you I sold 75% of my silver into this move because I was on with Liz claiming here. This is when I started getting really bullish on silver, right here. We rolled up 3 different strikes. Now everybody's bullish, so that probably means we need a little bit of a pull. It doesn't mean silver move is over, but anytime you get 4 days in a row extended from the 8th day, I tend to trim, so then this way I could stay with some as a trailer and then maybe roll up strikes into a pullback. But this is the daily chart. You go to the weekly chart definitely looks like there's a lot of room here, right? But the weekly chart is a bigger time frame that if you get paid for April might not pay you. You have to look at the daily chart. But anyway, so it's all a different time frame. We'll see how it goes. I appreciate you. Be careful who you listen to on Twitter, on TV. Even me. Sometimes I'm never always right, but when I'm wrong, I don't get louder and louder. I admit it. I use stops. I move on. I use a tier system. I have a process. I have a routine. That's what kept me in business for 25 years. If you want to learn more about it, come to the open house next week. You don't lose it. You're not losing anything. Just some time, and maybe you'll learn something from maybe not me, but the 300, 400 other professional traders that trade for a living. At this point, what else do you guys? Crypto. There's a big, massive wedge in crypto. So the question is, what does crypto really mean? Is it a hedge against the governments? Is it a hedge against society? Is it a hedge against Pluto coming down? Is it a hedge against currencies? Is it, is it a risk asset? Probably. Anyway, at this point, if you trade for a living, you have to be a little careful. Why do you have to be a little careful? Let's go to the daily chart. Look at the daily chart. You do have this, pretty big wedge formation, okay, which is getting tighter. You have a high, a lower high. You have your low, a higher low. So the question is, which way is this wedge going to break? Is it gonna, if all of a sudden, God forbid, their bombs are flying this weekend, does that mean Bitcoin's gonna ignite because they need to use that currency and spread it around, or what? I don't know. If that's the case, it's got to go with 68 and 71, or is like, hey, the equities are gonna come in and everything's gonna liquidate a little bit, so maybe they sell some winners, and this has been a big winner. Then it breaks 64. So if you're super duper active and you want to have a stop, which Bitcoin loves to steal, you have 64,000. If you think going into the halving or post halving, it's going to get above 73.8, it's got to get above 68,000 first. Simplify it, my friends. It's not overly complicated. And everyone who thinks and tells you they know it all and it's so easy, they're full of sugar honey iced tea. It irks the hell out of me when I see people make like, it's so easy, or the stock market's a casino. The stock market is not a casino. The stock market is a mechanism to save for retirement so you can have fun in your older years. Maybe save for college because freaking universities are sky high, or trade for a living with a process and a routine, which is hard to do. You can't just flip a coin. You're never going to make it more than friggin' a bunch of trades. So work on your process, work on your routine, keep your mind right so you can last over time. And thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the weekend. And let's see if Mrs. Clark or Miss Clark could come through. She's awesome. A lot of great basketball this weekend. Have some fun, sweat it out a little bit, and don't sweat the small stuff, because when the big stuff happens, you're never going to be able to handle it. And if you do make some promises, the best promises you can keep are the ones to yourself. Because if you don't keep the promises to yourself, you're never going to keep them to anyone else. Later, guys.